Daf Yomi, Tractate Zevachim, page 114b. We're about a line or two into it with the words Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak Amar. First line and a half. Rav Nachman, at the top of the page. Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak Amar Penim de Gilgal Rabbi Shilo Kachut Dami. Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak said, Rabbi Zera's statement is even in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Shimon, who also holds that one would not receive lashes for slaughtering inside the temple courtyard, an offering whose time has not yet arrived. A prohibition cannot be derived from the prohibition stated with regard to the tabernacle in Gilgal, since inside the tabernacle in Gilgal, in relation to the tabernacle in Shiloh, is considered like outside, and the prohibition of you shall not do pertains only to sacrificing an offering whose time has not yet arrived outside the temple courtyard. Rabba Amar Tamed Rabbi Shimon Gititanya Rabbi Shimon Omer Minayin Nezaveh Pesach B'Bamas Yachid B'Shas Yisur B'Bamois Shubeloi Ta'aseh Tamed Lo Imar Lo Tuchal Lizbach Et HaPesach. Rabbah said the reason of Rabbi Shimon is not based upon you shall not do, as Reish Lakish claims, but upon another verse, as it is taught in a Braita that Rabbi Shimon says. From where is it derived that one who slaughters his paschal offering on a private altar at a time when it is prohibited to sacrifice offerings on private altars violates the prohibition? The verse states, you may not sacrifice the paschal offering within any of your gates, but at the place that the Lord your God shall choose to cause his name to dwell in. There you shall sacrifice the paschal offering. Deuteronomy 16, 5 and 6. So this is where Reish Lakish says that it's prohibited in this verse. One might have thought that even at a time when it is permitted to sacrifice offerings on private altars, this is so. Therefore the verse states, within any of your gates, which indicates that I said this prohibition to you only when all the Jewish people enter the temple through one gate in order to sacrifice their offerings. Where there is no permanent communal altar, it is permitted to slaughter the paschal offering upon a private altar. Rabbah analyzes the Braita. When was this paschal offering, for which one violates a prohibition for slaughtering it, during a time when it is forbidden to sacrifice on private altars, slaughtered? If we say that it was after midday on the 14th of Nisan, which is the proper time for sacrificing the paschal offering in the temple, then one who sacrifices it then violates not only a prohibition, he should also be deemed liable to receive karet as well, as would anyone who slaughters a fit offering outside the temple courtyard. Rather, is it not discussing one who slaughtered the paschal offering on a private altar on the 14th of Nisan before midday, when its time had not yet arrived? The Gemara rejects Rabbah's explanation. Actually, the paschal offering may have been sacrificed on a private altar after midday of the 14th of Nisan, and it is referring to a time when it is permitted to sacrifice on private altars, meaning the periods of Gilgal, Nov, and Gibeon. The verse teaches that although it was permitted to sacrifice voluntary vow offerings and gift offerings on a private altar, the paschal offering may be sacrificed only on a great public altar. The Gemara asks, but doesn't the Braita state that a time when it is permitted to sacrifice offerings on private altars? The Gemara responds, the Braita means that it is prohibited for one to sacrifice the paschal offering on a private altar, but it is permitted to use a private altar for another offering, which is a voluntary vow offering or a gift offering. The Mishnah teaches that with regard to an offering whose time has not yet arrived, because it is premature for its owner, one who sacrifices it outside the temple courtyard is exempt. This category includes a zav, a zava, and a woman after childbirth, any of whom sacrifice a sin offering or guilt offering outside the temple courtyard during the days that they are counting toward purification. The Gemara asks, and are these individuals subject to the obligation to bring guilt offerings? Zeiri said, the text of the Mishnah should teach leper together with the zav, zava, and woman after childbirth. A leper brings a guilt offering as part of his purification process. Olotem v'shalmehen v'hanim leishlamim nina ninu amar of sheshes tenino zil yisiri kavuat tenoi derav sheshes lo kavuat tenoi. The Mishnah also teaches that if those whose time has not yet arrived sacrifice their burnt offerings or their peace offerings outside the temple courtyard, they are liable. The Gemara asks, and are these individuals subject to the obligation to bring peace offerings? Rav Sheshet said, teach the case of a Nazirite as part of the list in the Mishnah. A Nazirite where were we? Nazirite. Yeah, we're holding my Nazirite here. A Nazirite, Rav Sheshet said, teach the case of a Nazirite as part of the list in the Mishnah. Yeah. A Nazirite brings a peace offering at the conclusion of his term of Naziriteship. The Gemara notes that the addition of Zeiri to the text of the Mishnah, meaning the case of a leper, was fixed by the Tanaim in the version of the Mishnah that they would teach, while the addition of Rav Sheshet, meaning the case of the Nazirite, was not fixed by the Tanaim in the Mishnah that they would teach. Amar b'chilkiya dever Rav Tovi. Amar b'chilkiya dever Rav Tovi. Amar b'chilkiya Rav Tovi. Lo shna l'shimo, ela l'shimo. Aber lo l'shmo chayav, lo l'shelo l'shmo b'pnim. The Mishnah teaches that if one whose days of purification are not complete, for example, a leper slaughters his guilt offering outside the temple courtyard, he is exempt since the offering is not fit for sacrifice at that time. With regard to this, Rabbi Chilkiah sage from the school of Rav Tovi says, they taught this only with regard to one who slaughters a guilt offering outside the temple courtyard for its own sake, but it slaughtered it outside the temple courtyard not for its own sake, but for the sake of a different offering. He is liable for having sacrificed outside the courtyard. This is because it was fit to be sacrificed not for its own sake inside the temple courtyard, as a guilt offering that was slaughtered not for its own sake is fit for sacrifice. C2a. The Gemara asks, if so, one who slaughters the guilt offering for its own sake should also be liable for having slaughtered it outside the temple courtyard, since it was fit to be slaughtered not for its own sake inside the temple courtyard. The Gemara answers, in order for a guilt offering that was slaughtered outside the temple courtyard to be considered fit to be sacrificed inside it, it first requires uprooting of its status, meaning the one who slaughters it should intend explicitly that it be a different sacrifice. If its status as a guilt offering has not yet been uprooted, it is not considered fit to be sacrificed inside. Rav Huna objects to Rabbi Chilkiah's statement. that a guilt offering whose time is not yet arrived is fit to be sacrificed inside, if it is slaughtered not for its own sake, and is there anything that is not fit for if its action is performed for its own sake, but is fit if its action is performed not for its sake? The Gemara replies, and is there not? But there is.